and hello. Today we'll be looking at integers and operations. Just a prerequisite for this lesson, you should have looked at the natural numbers before looking at the integers. The integers are just kind of an extension of the natural numbers, and we'll see what I mean by that soon. And we'll be looking at operations on integers. Operations, just a bit of a fancy word, but you'll see that we've seen them before in primary school, and they're actually not as hard as they sound. Just a little bit of history about the integers, I guess. First kind of came up in China a long time ago when they were looking at finance or money. When you were counting money, they kind of realized, well, what happens if you lose money? Or what happens if you owe someone money? So let's say you owe someone €5. Well, how would you represent that? How much money do you actually have then? And the integers themselves were kind of finalized by this guy, Pramagupta is his name, and he kind of came up with all this. So this is what we call the number line of all the integers. So we have this new thing, 0, we haven't seen before. 0 is just nothing. 0, nothing. If I have nothing, and let's say I have something, I have 1 of something. If I have another something, I have 2 of something. And 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and so on. Now you'll notice these are all just the natural numbers. We've already looked at these guys. Now, what's a little bit more interesting is to the left of 0, we have the negative numbers. -1, -2, -3, -4. So going back to the money example, remember I said if you owe someone €5, well, technically that means you have -€5. Because you don't actually even have any money, but you owe another 5 money, so €5, so that means you would be -5. Just looking at it, as I mentioned before, let's say you cut this bit off. So they say 0 and all the negative numbers. If I cut it off, that's just all the natural numbers. But if I kept all this, so the minus numbers, the negative numbers, and 0, and all the positive numbers, that's the integers. So what we say is the natural numbers is kind of a small part of all the integers. And we'll be looking at sets later on, so that's a little bit of an important thing just to remember. I also said we'd be talking about operations. So what are operations? They're just things that we do to the numbers. So they're kind of tools that we use. Ones you might be familiar with that I've mentioned here is adding and subtracting. You've done this since primary school. It's not anything special. We just call them operations. It's just a fancy word to describe all these things. Let's say we're given 9 minus 5. Everybody can do that. I'm sure you can do it in your head. But visually, what that looks like on your integer number line is, it says, okay, what's the first part? 9. So I start at 9. And it says -5. So what does that mean? Well, let's say I'm at 0. If I go right any bit, I start getting more positive. I get more and more and more positive. So I start 1, 2, I'm getting greater and bigger and bigger and bigger. If I go left, well, I'm going negative. I'm getting more and more negative. I'm getting -1, -2, -3, -4. I'm getting way more negative. So if I'm at 9 and I say 9 minus 5, it means I go to the left 5. I'm getting more negative. I'm going 5 more negative. So that I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 9 minus 5, that's going to be 4. Now I know you could do that in your head, but this is just visually what's going on. What about -10 plus 5? So I'm at -10, that's your first part, plus 5. Okay, so I move over 5. Which way am I moving? Am I going left or right? Well, do you remember I said if we go right, we're getting more and more positive. So we're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So -10 plus 5, that's just -5. -8 minus 2, okay, where am I starting? -8, and I go left 2, so 1, 2. So that means I'm at -10. Last one, where am I starting? I'm starting at 0 this time. Bit of a strange one, but I'm starting at 0. Now, negative, it's -8. So I'm going left 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 0 minus 8, that's just minus 8. Quick note, really, really, really important. Minus 5 minus 3. So let's say you have the minus 3 in brackets and you're subtracting that from minus 5. What happens there? Now, I've written in the box. I said, well, that's the same thing as minus 5 plus 3. So where did I get that from? If I'm at minus 5, okay? Minus 5, that's where I'm starting. Minus, okay, so I'm going to be going in the negative direction. So I'm going to be going this way. But then it's minus 3. So what's kind of happening is I'm going in the negative direction, but I'm then going in the negative of the negative direction. So I started going this way, but it's actually the negative of this, so it's going that way. If you want to think about it, in English, if we say, I am not going to the shop, what does that actually mean? Well, it means you're actually just going to the shop. They kind of cancel each other out. And it's the same thing in maths. So minus, that's just going to be a plus. So let's say minus 5 plus 3. Well, that we can do that. So it'll be just minus 5 and go across 3. So it'll be minus 2. Very important. Remember this. This comes up all the time and people make mistakes on it. Other operations we were looking at. Multiplying and dividing. So what's all that about? Let's say 4 times 2. Now I know, we probably all know 4 times 2 is 8. We learned off our times tables and everything like that. But why? What does multiplication actually mean? What it actually means is 4 times 2 is the same thing as just 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2. Now where did I get that from? 4 times 2 is just shorthand for add 2 4 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Or you could read it the other way. You could say add 4 twice. So it's just 4 plus 4. So you can read it either way. You can say 2 if I add it to itself 4 times. Or I could say, well, 4 and add it twice. So 4 plus 4. Let's say 4 times minus 2. Now, same logic as up here. What's that going to mean? Well, it's just minus 2 plus minus 2 plus minus 2 plus minus 2. Do you remember? Because we're just doing 4. We're doing it 4 times. So what's minus 2 plus minus 2 plus minus 2 plus minus 2? What's all that? Note, and this is the important note. If I have minus 2 plus minus 2, well, the minus is kind of a bit more important here. We're still going to be going to the left on our number line. So it's going to be minus 2, minus 2. So you can kind of forget about the plus in a way. Minus 2, that's going to be equal to minus 4. Remember on your number line, you're starting at minus 2, you're going left 2, minus 4. So how would I do this? 4 times minus 2, that's minus 2, minus 2, minus 2, minus 2. That's going to be minus 8. Very important, especially this guy. So if I have, let's say, minus 2 plus minus 2, well, that's just the same thing as minus 2, minus 2. Other ones. Let's say we had minus 4 times minus 2. So now we have 2 negative numbers. How would we do this? Well, I can do a little trick here. Minus 4 times minus 1 multiplied. So these brackets mean multiply by 2. Now you'll notice minus 2 and this is the exact same thing. I'm just saying minus 1 times 2. That's the same thing as 2. Yeah, so I've written it over here. Let's say minus 6 times minus 1. That's just going to be equal to 6. Yeah? So what goes on here? Well, minus 4 times minus 1 by 2. Well, that's the same thing as just 4 by 2. Now, how did I get from 4? I was at minus 4 and I went to 4. Minus 4 times minus 1. Same rule here. If I have any number and a negative number and I multiply it by minus 1, I just get the positive version of it. So minus 4 times minus 1, that's just going to be 4. So it's just 4 times 2, and then that's just 8. So, very, very important. Another way of looking at it, if you want to don't really care about this stuff, why does it happen? Maybe you don't care. Negative times a negative is just a positive. Do you remember if I was talking about not? Same thing here. So minus 4 times minus 2, that's going to be not a negative number, it's going to be a positive number. Now we're looking at division. 4 divided by 2, what's that mean? Well, what it means is, what do I need to multiply by 2 to get 4? So what it's saying is, okay, 4 divided by 2 is something. So something multiplied by 2 is equal to 4. And what number is that? Well, that number would be 2. Yeah? So 4 divided by 2 is 2. How did I get 2? 2 multiplied by 2 is 4. Minus 4 divided by 2. Okay, same logic. What do I need to multiply by 2 to get minus 4? So 2 by something else is minus 4. So how would I do that? Well, 2 multiplied by 2 is 4, but I want minus 4. So it's going to be 2 multiplied by minus 2. So minus 4 divided by 2, that's going to be equal to minus 2. What about this one? Minus 4 divided by minus 2, same logic. What do I need to multiply by minus 2 to get minus 4? Well, minus 2, it's going to be, well, let's say times 2. So minus 2 times 2, well, that's going to be equal to minus 4. Yeah? So minus 4 divided by minus 2, well, that's just equal to 2. Just if you don't like this, trying to remember this every time, positive divided by a positive is going to be a positive. Negative divided by a positive is going to be negative. Negative divided by a negative, that's going to be a positive. That's what I came up with over here, just for your, remember? Positive, negative, positive. What do you actually need to remember? When multiplying or dividing integers, like signs give plus, unlike signs give minus. What does that mean? See the way these are both plus? This is a positive number, this is a positive number. So it's going to be a positive number. Now I have a negative number and a positive number, so it's going to be a negative number. They're unlike signs, they're not the same signs. Now this time I have two negative numbers. Well, yeah, it's going to be positive. So when multiplying or dividing integers, this applies for only multiplying and dividing. Forget subtracting and addition, not the same thing. Like signs give plus, unlike signs give a minus. Just some recap questions, as we always do. True or false, integers are just natural numbers and they're negatives. And then solve this. So I'll give you a second to do that. Okay, true or false, integers are just natural numbers and they're negatives. Think careful now, careful. False, they also include 0. Remember, natural numbers are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It starts at 1. So integers are the negative numbers, yeah, that's true, but they also include 0. So don't forget, they also include 0. Really, really important. So integers are positive and negative whole numbers, and they include 0. That's the official definition. That's what you'd write down if asked in a question, what are integers? Okay, then solving this. Like signs give a plus. So 9 divided by 3, that's going to be 3. 4 times 2, they're opposite signs, they're not the same, they're unlike signs, so it's going to be a negative. So I have 3 minus 8. Careful, do you remember minus? That's going to be a plus. So 3 plus 8 is equal to 11.